this is Editing KJ with a quick note that this episode was recorded before the WGA strike and the SAG-AFTRA strikes were resolved, and in some cases possibly before the strikes began. We're super happy to be back, so please enjoy this episode. My name is KJ, and you're listening to the Supernatural Opinions podcast, where some things in this world are supernatural. My pronouns are she, they, and this is the podcast where I talk to my fellow Supernatural fans about Supernatural, and we share our supernatural opinions. All right, let's do it. Let's just do it. Today I'm being joined by my guests, August and Pluto. August, please remind everyone who you are.
Hi, my name is August. My pronouns are they, them, and I am one of the hosts on Saving People Queering Things, as well as a co-host with KJ on Wayward Parents.
Incredible. We're so glad that you're back for a new season.
I love to be back. I'm so excited.
And Pluto, this is your first time with us, so please tell the people who you are.
Hello, I am Pluto. My pronouns are she, they. I guess, can I describe myself as a content creator?
Yeah, I would say that's
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Valid. Okay, I'm a content creator in the supernatural space. You can find me on TikTok as Spidey Highlighty or Twitter as E625Gwen and just kind of listen to my ramblings, either about fanfic or being overly analytical and academic about the medias that I consume.
Yeah, honestly, that is absolutely how I know you, is from your content. So I'm super glad that you're here. How long have you been watching Supernatural for?
I think this year makes a decade, actually.
Wow.
Like, I started when I was so it's kind of confusing to know when I actually started watching.
Yeah.
Because I was in the Supernatural fandom before I started watching the show.
Ooh, interesting.
It was 2013. I was on Super Gulag Tumblr because I started watching Doctor Who when I was in 8th grade, and I watched Sherlock, and then Supernatural was the final one because it was the longest.
Valid.
So I started watching either late 2012 or really early 2013. I do very clearly remember what finally got me to start watching it was I saw this gift set of this is spoilers.
Spoilery thing, and I'll judge later how much I leave in.
So I will say I saw a gift set of a reunion hug that happened in season 8, which was airing at the time. And I was like, oh shit, those bitches gay. And I was looking through all the notes and the comments and stuff on the post, and they were all along the lines of, oh shit, those bitches gay. So I genuinely thought Destiel was either already canon or was going to be canon by the end of the season.
Oh, that was very wishful thinking. That was very optimistic of you.
Oh, what beautiful hope you had. Coming into the fandom.
I feel like a experience a lot of people have had, honestly, who only know Supernatural from online.
Yeah, very much queer baited from the get. That's how they got me. Sherlock, I didn't go in thinking they were already together, Yeah. But I was like, this is gonna happen. It's what to me, Destiel back then is what Buddy is to a lot of people now. Of people just think it's already gay. And they're like, wait, what the fuck do you mean that they haven't kissed yet? That's how it was for me back then.
Yeah,
I was
so valid.
This is only the first time they've hugged. What?
What do you mean this is just analysis? This is not actually explicitly stated within the text.
August, for me, more than the listeners, where are you at on 911?
I'm in very beginning of season 4.
Excellent.
Yes, very beginning of season 4.
August came to my apartment for a weekend and we watched into season 2.
Aww.
We started it because I was I've been considering it, but I don't know if I'm willing to be baited. because I've been in the trenches for like also like you, like a decade. I'm like, but then KJ was like, well, you'll probably like it. Why don't we just watch the first episode? And then a season later we were like, oh, yeah. I was like, okay, then
between Friday afternoon and Sunday morning, we watched all of season 1 and part of season 2.
Yeah. That's how it was for me. Good. I was like, I'm not gonna watch this show till it goes canon. I'm not gonna watch this show till it goes canon. And then I took a week-long vacation and just watched all of it. I was like, what do you mean?
Incredible. Well, speaking of
things that are gay.
Things that are gay. This week we're recapping season 4, episode 1, Lazarus Rising. Back where it all really started. This episode originally aired on September 18th, 2008. The title's a reference to the biblical Lazarus of Bethany. He was a super fortunate guy who Jesus raised from the dead in the Gospel of John. It's Jesus' last miracle before the crucifixion, where he pulls the same little trick on himself, but like less effectively. I feel like Lazarus got like a better deal, to be honest.
How do you feel like Lazarus got a better deal than Jesus?
I mean, Lazarus was brought back from the dead. Jesus was like brought back from the dead, and then he was like a ghost, and he didn't get to like stick around.
And also, like, Lazarus wasn't crucified.
Yeah, I feel like his death was also objectively better.
I thought you were referring to just the like method of resurrection, and I was like, well, we're just thinking resurrection.
I mean,
if we're just talking resurrection, then Lazarus not the worst deal.
Yeah,
because it was a day longer than Jesus is.
That's fair. That's fair. But I feel like he got to go back to like living his life, which is better. Jesus is like got a little bit derailed post crucifixion. Like,
I mean, that whole going up to heaven ascension thing.
Obviously, because of this episode, Lazarus has become deeply tied to Dean Winchester, but I would just like to say, like, Sam also was risen from the dead. Is how Dean got dead in this exact situation. So I feel like, I don't know, there's something there also. But obviously,
the
Dean,
cycle of death and resurrection in Supernatural.
It's so much, honestly. This week's episode will contain spoilers for this episode, may reference previous episodes, probably won't contain spoilers for later episodes of Supernatural. I feel like honestly not promising that it definitely won't, but like, I think KT will do the rest. This episode was written by Eric Kripke and directed by Kim Manners. They're the standard season premiere duo. We just had them on the season 3 finale, like, not 2 weeks ago, like it should have been, but last time we had a regular episode. The first thing we do is gonna like rate the episode. August, what would you like to rate this episode?
I would like to rate this episode. Honestly, this one would get 5 stars from me.
5 stars out of 5 stars?
Yeah, 5 stars out of 5 stars. Rewatching this episode, I was like, this episode does not miss. The dialogue is great. The plotting is great. The lighting, the shooting, like every element of this episode is good. Genuinely good television. And we don't get to say that about Supernatural very often, that it's genuinely good television. And like, this is an episode where I feel like I could show this to someone who didn't watch Supernatural and they'd be like, this is a enjoyable piece of media. And then I'd be like, okay, now you don't get to watch any more Supernatural, so you can maintain that perception.
Yeah. It's valid. Pluto, what would you like to rate this episode?
I would like to rate it an 11 out of 10. It goes hard. It does
go hard.
For all the same reasons that August mentioned, and also just like even like the color coding / grading in this episode drives me fucking insane. It's so like there's the attention to detail in this episode is so good.
Yeah.
It is also the only episode of Supernatural my friend Katie has seen because I made her watch it. Which is exciting for me because this is the only time she's actually gonna have any idea of what the fuck I'm talking about. But like, she enjoyed it too. So
August, pretty good endorsement. If someone can literally just pick it up and watch it and find it like enjoyable or like of value, I feel like that's such a good, like that's just like such a, I don't know, like testament to how good it is.
I think granted she was already biased towards it just because she's been friends with me for 6 years, but like
I also think like, I mean, there are people who start the show at this point. And there are a lot of people that I know that when they do rewatches will sometimes start at this point.
Yeah.
Like this works effectively. And like, I think that you need the first 3 seasons personally for a lot of things, but I understand. And I think like why this episode works because it does effectively kind of feel like it could be a repilot it could be a pilot, and it would still, you can catch yourself up. You don't have all of the stuff you need, but you have a lot of the pieces of like what the show is going to be going forward into the next couple seasons, which is a, you know, strong point in its favor. Like Kirky's weird little mind works this time.
Yeah. I don't think I would ever advocate for like skipping like big chunks of this show, but I do think like there are a few different ways you could package this show. I think like the Kripke era could be viewed on its own. I think like 4 to 15 could be viewed on its own. Like I just, it really could be like a starting point. Like you could definitely watch this without watching the first 3. I'm a big fan of like the seasons like 2 like special children's storyline, so I would be sad to lose that or to have not had it, but like
same.
Yeah, this is a vibe.
I guess coming with a hot take, I don't like the first 2 seasons. I'm one of those people that when I start rewatches, I start in season 3. For me, that is when the show starts.
Ooh, that's a unique place to start.
Because
I think it gives you all the context that you need as to like who these characters are, their insane fucking relationships, like codependency between Dean and Sam. Because like
I would never have considered starting at season 3.
I think it's the perfect part.
If there was ever a season I was gonna skip, it would be season 3.
I think it's the perfect place to start.
I would miss the season 2 finale. That's the piece that I would feel like I would miss with starting at season 3. But other than that, that's super unique. That's super interesting.
The season 2 double finale is where I started my mom, who's currently on, I want to say season 6 or 7 right now. Obviously she went back and watched the first season, but I was like, what can I show her that will like get her invested? And like it was like the last 2 episodes of season 2. So no, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to think about that. That's gonna give me thoughts.
It's also funny just to like start the season 3 premiere and like see where they're like the 7 deadly sins, and like we've never faced anything like this before, and then like you jump to like 17 episodes later and it's a fucking angel with the apocalypse. Like the stakes raised so drastically.
That is actually pretty funny.
Fast.
It's like the plot just speeds ahead. Really,
There are some really good things in season 3. We found honestly more enjoyable than I remembered it being.
I also found that on
I would say the season 3 is like not the pilot I would vote for like a starting point. If I was like, which pilot is like which premiere of a season is good, season 3 would not be in my top 5.
But as a rewatch, like when you've seen the first 2, as a rewatch starting there, interesting.
I'm gonna have to try that next time.
In the Kripke era in general, there's just like I don't know what his deal was with like making incest jokes, but there's just like
there's too many of them.
Too many.
There's episode.
That almost should have affected my ratings. Like it doesn't, because everything else in this episode is so good, but that joke, I just hate it. I just hate it.
But it's funny because it's Ruby like fucking with them at least.
Yeah, it's the most acceptable of all of the incest jokes across every season.
We will get there when we get there, but I will say Dean set a very solid boundary that was very anti-incest in that moment, and I was proud of it. I was relieved to hear it.
Yeah.
You set that boundary twice this episode. I was like, good for you.
I gave this episode a 9.8 out of 10. I don't remember why I took 0.2 off. I do think it is a really good episode. The only episode that's like been a 10 so far has been like Mystery Spot. And I think this is a 10 in the opposite way that Mystery Spot is a 10. Like this is all the other things that I like about Supernatural. Like this is like a more serious episode of Supernatural to be a 10. Our next like pre-recap segment is total death count. This week we only saw 2 deaths, which brought our on-screen total to 268, and the on and off-screen total was also 2 for 1,882 plus. It's a good time. So nice little like start to the season. Not too many deaths this week to get things going. Honestly, we had like a -1 death. Honestly.
Right. We moved the opposite direction.
Yeah.
We take one off of the.
No. We are not removing deaths. Or else we'd be like a bunch
back
short, because like 115 of those are just Winchesters at this point.
Just Dean at this point.
Yeah.
Needs to make it up a solid percentage of that list.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what we're going into the season with and into this episode. So we're going to start with our recap. Pluto, feel free to just interrupt whenever you have something to say, something to add.
Okay.
Just jump on in. The recap music is You Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC. It's a real vibe. But there was nothing else I wanted to say about it. We were all
It's
here.
a good recap to jump in.
I'm sure everybody listened to our season 3 finale and knows exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And what we thought about it.
I find the like what they chose to put in it interesting, because I guess it is a good recap of like season 3, but I'm just like, why did you like need that specific shot of Gordon Walker dying?
Yeah, it's who knows?
A few things in there that like weren't necessary. I definitely think that they should stick to characters who are gonna be coming up again in the episode or the season.
Yeah.
Or characters who were super crucial. Like, I'm not adverse to like John appearing in a recap.
Yeah.
Of the first 2 seasons, because that's important. That's crucial to know, because it will still have impact going forward. But like Gordon does not have impact going forward. So there's no point for him being there at this point.
We're done.
No.
But we get these little like flashes of like hell in darkness, and then Dean's waking up in a coffin and he just like digs his way out. It's really iconic with the wooden cross and the hand coming out of the grave. I created a KJ's top 4 hand reaching out of the grave TV moments.
Yes.
Dean Winchester is number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Buffy Summers in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
This is
that's fair.
Yes. You know what? That deserves to be number 2.
Yeah. Number 3 is Alison DeLaurentis in Pretty Little Liars, season 4, episode 12. And number 4 was Temperance Brennan in Bones, season 2, episode 9.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. That's like the only other one that came to mind. I was gonna say, like, when he's like coming out of the grave, like I did like when both his hands are out, like it looks like they're like raised in like supplication or like
it's like prayer.
I'm just so interested about the cross. Like, why did Sam?
I also have questions about the cross. Right. There's nothing written on it. There's nothing.
It's just a marker, it's just
a marker.
It's a cross, and like then that overhead shot of like Dean's shadow and the cross's shadow being the same side. I was like, what is? I don't know what.
Yeah, there's also a thing with the shadow. Like this was shot at a very specific time of day. They also did this with like practical effects. So basically, like they dug a hole in the ground, put a piece of neoprene with some dirt on top, and like made Jensen crawl out.
Made Jensen, but also like he wanted to. He was like, yeah, you know what? I think it'll look cooler if I actually sort of have to dig myself out, which is insane behavior.
Horrible.
Insane behavior.
Awful. I cannot think of like a more. I'm not at all. I don't consider myself claustrophobic at all, but like that sounds horrible to me.
Yeah, that man. If there's one thing I can say about him is he commits. Sometimes I think a little too hard, but
I think like this is where I think there was some unhinged behavior before this point, but I think committing to actually being buried, like I think something fundamentally shifted in Jensen's
I agree.
Connection to Dean as a character.
That's when like
there's a real shift in Dean's character. I feel like.
Vexel.
Yeah.
That's when like they became one, you know?
Yeah.
When he was buried alive.
There's a pretty big shift in Dean, like pre-hell and post-hell, and like honestly I wonder how much of that is just like a Dean settled into the vessel. He was comfy after that, but like
I think Jensen was maybe just like so glad to be like, this was like after the writer's strike. Maybe he was just like, I gotta go hard.
Yeah. Hopefully the writer's strike is like long fucking over by the time this episode comes out, because it's gonna be a while before this one comes out. But like currently the writers are back on strike.
Topical.
Yep. We're getting to talk about impact.
Yeah.
Pay writers, you know, they deserve it.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see what the post 2023 writer's strike television is like, because this is top notch shit right here.
Yeah.
But Dean drags himself out of this grave, and like the cross is the only upright thing. The trees surrounding the clearing are all like on the ground, but they're all like falling outward from the grave instead of like, you know, like the wind blew in a direction. All the trees fell like one way.
It's something exploded out.
Yeah,
it's a radius effect.
It was like the roots up too. Like it wasn't like they were just knocked. Like the trunks were blown up. Like it was.
And it's totally symmetrical.
Yeah.
So which like first off visually is just stunning, but also I'm thinking about like the fact, like the religious element of like symmetry and the symbolism of like this perfect circle. Like that's also
and then like
very interesting.
Dean and this cross are like standing in the middle of this like
devastation. Also, it reminded me of in 204, the zombie girl episode, where they had the unholy ground and like it was like a full circle around her grave.
Yeah. Well, and that's you're talking about in season 2, that's the one that's about resurrection.
Yeah.
Children don't play with dead things.
Yeah,
it's
the one where the whole thing was like, what's dead should stay dead, and
which full circle.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that episode later because I have notes. But Dean walks down the road to a closed gas station. He breaks in, steals some water, and the newspaper says September 18th, 2008, which is, of course, the day the episode aired. Dean finds a mirror. He starts examining his body. He's still got his anti-possession tattoo, but his main concern at first is that last he remembers, he was torn apart by hellhounds. Also, these are not the same clothes that Dean was in when he died. This is an entirely different shirt. It's a different color. It's not even like close to the same outfit. There's like no sign of any injuries or anything. He also has on his ring, which we got a really good look at when he was like poking his 2 hands out of the grave. He also has on a watch and a bracelet. No amulet. And he rolls up his sleeve. I appreciate
that Cass returned him to his body and was like, all your accessories except his amulet. Because Sam has that. I'm not going to like I can't take that, but I'm gonna return you with all your other accessories. Just
so sweet. Little jewelry.
Yeah.
Or Sam left all his accessories on. Like he only took this amulet and didn't take anything else of Dean's, which is also a choice.
Yeah.
I mean,
I do like the idea of Cass picking out Dean's clothes better, but
I feel like the fact that Dean's body was so torn up, getting all of those, like the amulet obviously has so much importance. I can see him making sure, but I can also see him not being able to handle
removing anything else.
Yeah, the amount of that's really really traumatic.
Yeah. Dean rolls up his sleeve and he reveals that he's a handprint burnt onto his arm, like someone like grabbed his shoulder with like a brand.
That's called dibs.
Yeah. It's I sometimes I forget just how like iconic
that is. Yeah.
That is how the concept this ship started, because Cass literally like brands him pulling him out of hell.
Yeah.
Like, and we just go hard on that. Every time they show the handprint in this episode, it's like big moment. Everyone looks at it and like it's just like awe. It's delightful.
It really is.
It really is, honestly. Like Dean starts loading up on snacks, water, a Busty Asian beauty magazine, because priority.
Most out of character moment in this episode is
I agree.
Because I'm like,
I agree.
You cannot tell me that someone coming out of 40 years in hell, that's a priority.
Yeah, that's not a top 3 priority. That's not a pre-phone priority.
No.
I was literally like my thoughts were like, who are you performing for?
Exactly.
It feels which is why it feels like a writing choice more than a character choice.
Yeah It didn't add any levity to the situation either. Like it was
it just like it was so fucking weird. Like I just don't it's like it ruffles my feathers. I didn't enjoy it. Like
they're like you need to remember who this character is, apparently. Even though in season 3, characteristically in season 3, not that much of that type of behavior in season 3 at all, because he's literally facing down death for an entire season.
For like the first 2 or 3 episodes, and then we're done with all that. Like, not a priority.
He like sows his wild oats or whatever, and then is like,
we're good. Also, he goes over to the register, and I thought he was gonna leave money for the owner for all the stuff he was taking, and he just popped open. He popped open the register and stole the money, and I was like, "Oh no!" Literally the opposite.
I just want to know why this gas station was closed. Like,
I am very concerned about the owner. I am very concerned.
Yeah. Where is the owner?
I'm not convinced that they're not dead. To be honest.
I'm not convinced that Cass didn't kill him. Like,
me too. I'm not convinced that like
Cass was waiting for him there. Like
Cass just goes, you know what, Dean Winchester will, he will go to the closest place where he can get a vehicle and the things he needs. Oh, I gotta make sure that it's clear for him. I'm gonna be helpful.
Except like he buries him alive. Would it be helpful?
Also,
I think Cass's idea of what is necessary, what is most helpful for a human, is really, he's not there yet. He'll get there. He's not there yet.
He's still developing. Because I mean, I guess it's like they're not gonna let him die.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they like.
I do like that they built Dean a whole new body, but like didn't build the body outside of the grave. Just like
was like, you'll get out.
It was just like it was too much work to like get every freckle right.
I kind of wish
I need to take a nap now.
Oh, I'm actually tempted to bump this grave scene down to number 2, because in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when Buffy claws her way to the grave, in the episode before, we have a scene of her like skeletal remains in the grave, and then like a mist comes over her, and like her body reforms in front of us, and like
that would have been cool to see.
Yeah, I feel like we could have used a little like
not on the CW's budget.
Scene. I mean, was Buffy on the CW at that point?
Yes.
They definitely were for a season or 2. That was season 6.
Yeah.
They could have found the money. They should have found the money.
I wreck this fic every time I talk about this episode, but there is a wonderful fic that basically is I can't remember what it's called. I will find the link and send it to you, KJ. It's basically like, where did Dean learn to claw his way out of a grave? And I think it's called grave training. Maybe called grave training. It's a child set when they're kids, and it's about like John teaching them how to get out of a grave and get buried alive.
I feel like if I haven't read that fic, I've at least seen that.
It's very good characterization, and it adds a whole new weight to this scene. It's very good. Anyway, I will have to send it.
Yeah, if I haven't read that fic, I've at least read discourse on that.
Yeah,
because we all assume that the reason Dean knows how to do this, like you don't just like, if you're just average, even if you're a pretty fit person, if you wake up in your coffin, you're not getting yourself out without
it's hard
suffocating yourself.
Yeah. The TV turns on, which freaks Dean out, so he starts salting the windows, which, I mean, I guess Ghost is a pretty good guess for, like, TV turned itself on.
Well, like, it's the TV, and then the radio, and then, like the ringing, so it's like,
it starts getting, it just gets, like, louder and louder. All the windows blow out, so, like, that salt's doing no good.
But, like, when he's salting the window, and you have that outside shot of him, like, salting that, like,
so good, honestly.
On the green door.
The green tones on the scene.
Yeah.
Is this
like the first like act of the show, like this episode that's focused on Dean is like green, and then like it's red for Sam, and then like when we start introducing Cass, like it's all blue tones, but then like wing, literally the word wing on that fucking wall, like it's like, I don't know if you did that on purpose, but
I feel like they did it on purpose. But
I feel I want to give the writers I want to give the writers and producers and director like credit in this episode.
I want to give the designer credit.
Right, yes, because I'm like, I think that they were really intentional about everything in this episode, and it shows.
Yeah.
I've seen more than one time people who work on the Supernatural set saying again and again, anything that has writing on it is very intentionally, it's checked and it's double and triple checked before it goes on camera if there's writing. Like, so anything that's like writing, I feel like you can feel pretty like solid that it's intentional.
Yeah.
But yeah. Good times. Dean finds a payphone and he can't reach Sam, and Bobby hangs up on him twice because he's dead. Like that's a very expected Bobby response.
Yeah, I felt Bobby's so like bad for him in that scene. Because like that whole thing, like that the fucking gas station just blew up. He has no idea what's going on because that's not normal.
And it's been 40 years. You know, like it's
40 years. He just wants to talk to his dad. Like
yeah.
And he just wants someone to like believe him and be like, it's understandable with both Sam and Bobby that their first reaction is like suspicion, but it's so sad because all he wants is like for someone to be excited that he's alive.
Give the man
and
a hug.
They just immediately attack him.
Give him a hug. But he steals an old car and he drives to Bobby's. But I feel really bad for whoever owns this gas station. Dean's robbed them. Every window in the building is smashed. And probably the very old, probably valuable car was just stolen.
Well, okay.
I'm also pretty concerned that they're dead.
That dusty as shit, though.
Yeah.
So maybe it's an abandoned car?
Yeah, that was not a well-maintained car.
The gas station felt a little old-timey, but the newspaper we're led to believe is current, and also like there's like water and food and stuff, like
and milk and stuff. But also that's something that like Heaven could have set up.
Maybe Cass chose an abandoned building.
Maybe it's just like a Heaven gas station that doesn't actually exist.
This is like a precursor for the rest of later seasons.
I'd actually rather believe that than be concerned that like they've died somehow because of Dean coming back. So
it just does not feel like a real place.
You're actually so right. It feels like too old-timey of a gas station as well.
Yeah.
Even though like the inside has like the cooler fridge and everything, like the outside of it is so old-timey and like not.
And like I can't imagine that like if it were like why would they just have like two dusty cars sitting out front? Because it's not like it's a garage either. It's just
it's a gas station and there's no one there. Like yeah, you know what? From now on, that's my headcanon. That this is a completely fake thing that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, like Cass chose like an abandoned building and just everything else is fake.
Yeah. Like it used to be a functional gas station. Which I think the recession took it out.
It was 2008. That is very true.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at like the scene where he's washing his face, like that sink has not been clean. Like nothing has been touched in that for a long time.
Also, like tubes of table salt is just a weird thing to have at a gas station. I feel
unless it's exactly, because I'm like, that's not the kind of salt you use for salting the road, which makes sense to have in a gas station.
It literally says table salt on it.
But if you're Cass and you're like, I'm going to make sure there's salt because
that was a lot of salt.
Yeah, exactly. Like that could be a Cass set up the salt, but didn't think about like realistically the salt you would have in a gas station.
And like, I don't know how gas stations work in the Midwest, but like here in PA, we're big on gas station culture, right? Like most of our gas stations are also convenience stores, especially like Wawa or Sheetz. I don't think I can comfortably say Wawa sells tubs of table salt, even though like it is like semi like a grocery store. So now I'm just like, why the fuck is that? Like who
I'm gonna be
dank ass gas station?
I feel like I need to go to a convenience store tomorrow and see if they sell salt.
Start paying attention to that.
Yeah, anyway.
Also, what kind of car was that? Because like
usually I look it up and I totally didn't.
Because I want to know if it's like a Continental.
Look, I can't believe I didn't. That's very out of character for me.
It's like white and it's definitely like a classic car, and I'm just like,
I noted that it was old. They don't show us a lot of the outside of the car.
Like it's in the shot where like he's walking up to the gas station, which like his outfit in this scene is so painfully 2008. Like the boot cut jeans. I was just
Yep. Someone on the internet will know.
And I can almost see the make on the back of the car as well. It looks like a car I should know.
Apparently, the trees flatten outward from the central point is reminiscent of the Tunguska event, which was a massive explosion thought to be caused by a meteorite in Siberia in 1908, and was referenced in an episode of The X-Files that Kim Manners also directed.
That's also the meteorite that is super interesting with something we will find out in 9 episodes. That's a really interesting. We've got an interesting angel connection to also like meteorite. There's always connections with the angels and meteors that are going to be coming in the future. We won't spoil now, but paying attention to that, knowing that that's intentional in this episode is cool.
Super Wiki says that it's a 1962 Mercury Monterey hardtop. And that's so specific that I'm gonna assume that they're correct.
Yeah, that's
a very specific answer. Anyway, Dean shows up at Bobby's. Bobby's understandably convinced that Dean must be a demon or a monster of some sort. We learned that Bobby's middle name is Steven. And
Robert Steven Singer. Your name is Robert Steven Singer.
Why did I completely miss the middle name?
Yeah.
It's because we're all too concerned about you're the closest thing I have to a father.
Yeah.
There.
I just didn't even put that in my notes because it's like, that hurts too much to even talk about.
I put that in my notes because I'm like, ugh, God.
Yeah. Every time.
I don't even think that's because John's dead. That's just
it's not. It's because like
father.
John's like biologically his dad. But like in terms of a father,
Bobby.
In terms of like an active parent, Bobby has been that. Even before John was dead, Bobby was filling that role.
Yeah. Also with the color grading, I don't know I'm just gonna call it color coding. I don't know if that's actually the right term. but don't correct me if it's not.
We don't care.
Just the color coding this episode as like establishing like as like Dean as green, Sam as red, and Cass as blue. Like even though Bobby's shirt is technically like a burnt orange, like in the scene where he like finally accepts that it's like, oh, this is Dean, like back from the dead, like the shirt looks red, like it looks like it's the same color as the red wallpaper, but his overshirt is green, so it's like he is like tied or in a line to both Sam and Dean as like their father figure.
I love that. I love every single thing you just said.
Yes.
I'm assuming if either of you is gonna know off the top of your head, I'm assuming it'll be August. August, do you know if this is the first time we've seen them like cut themselves with the knife to prove that they're not a monster?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure.
I feel like it's the first like reunion-y one. If
It's
not
the
first
first
one.
reunion-y one. I think there's been now. It's the problem is that now I'm too far ahead in this.
Yeah. The only other episode I could think where that would be a thing was the shifter in season 1.
Yeah, and I don't remember if I don't feel like they did that in
they
that
don't
episode.
have an opportunity. They don't have an opportunity in that episode too,
that episode
or in
was,
season 2, or in season 2 with the shifter. They don't. Yeah,
they shoot the eye thing.
Yeah, because they don't have access to silver in the bank one. They don't have access to silver, so it's kind of irrelevant. Yeah. I think this is the first time, particularly like it's the first really significant like reunion moment with that.
Yeah. Also the holy lube water.
Yeah. That's exactly I wrote. Dean thinks he's finally gotten Bobby convinced, and Bobby hits him in the face with the holy water / lube.
Yep.
In case you don't know all your supernatural behind the scenes trivia, you're just consuming this podcast as like a first time watcher or something. The holy water that they splash on people in Supernatural is just lube because it's a little bit thicker than regular water.
It's not just it's water and lube together.
Yeah. So that
because
it gets
the water alone doesn't like show up as well on camera.
Yeah.
But lube in itself is too thick to like
it's also why
spray.
they always look so disgruntled every time they get hit in the face with it, is because it's not just water that they're being splashed with.
It's in his fucking mouth.
Yeah.
Well, and it sticks and then it'll like dry.
Yeah,
it's just
uncomfortable.
It's not fun. Yeah. And they had to do it more than once.
Yeah, which I'm sure they did. I'm sure they didn't get it perfectly on the first try every time. Like
no, because his face was already like really shiny.
Yeah,
probably because they had been wiping it off,
wiping the trying it again, just rubbing it into it. He must have broken out so bad after that.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
Well, the skin's too perfect to start with.
Yeah. That is my personal theory as to why like Astroglide used to live tweet Supernatural and why they're so active within the Supernatural fandom space, because they used it on set.
Yeah. They were proponents and they used it so much. Yeah. There's so many scenes with holy water. Like it's just such a common from this point onwards, it's just such a common thing.
A common thing.
Like it happens like probably almost once per episode.
Yeah.
It's gotta be a lot.
It's a lot of lube they're going through on set.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam just like only heard my part where I was like, they must have gone through a lot of lube on set. And Sam just like looked at me. Did you know they use lube for holy water? They mix lube and water to make the holy water that they would spray on people?
Ew! Oh my god.
Sorry to interrupt there. Just
that's incredible. Honestly, I feel like some of that is gonna show up on our end, and I'm leaving it in.
Sprayed with lube.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Here, be blessed.
Here, be blessed. Is what she just said.
But yeah, both Dean and Bobby agree that Dean shouldn't be alive, and Bobby's like, yeah, Sam went off on his own like months ago. He was not big on being looked after or parented at all, so he just is out in the wind, gone.
Oh, what does that remind us
of?
Devices. Oh, guess who did exactly the mystery spot scenario, given half of an opportunity.
Yeah.
The thing he was warned against exactly
against doing.
Exactly what happened.
Freakily overpowered trick somehow for some reason so invested in their lives. He was like, don't do this. And he was like, I'm gonna do exactly this. Actually.
Honestly,
I'm going to leave Bobby and hunt on my own.
Myself. I'm gonna
Honestly,
get in with the wrong crowd.
Really just come back 2 months ahead of schedule then. In that case.
Oh, that's true. I feel like what they did 4 months because it seems like even further connecting into the Lazarus of New Bethany, not New Bethany, of just Bethany, because he was dead for 4 days.
Yeah.
It's a good parallel.
Yeah.
Sam also refused to salt and burn Dean's body, which is what Bobby wanted to do, and they assume that Sam's probably responsible for getting Dean back, which I think is a reasonable assumption, honestly, given what they know.
Well, and given, again, also mystery spot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
fair.
I don't know if Dean or Bobby are really aware of the nuances that were mystery
Yeah.
spot.
Does Dean remember any of that?
It seems like he kind of maybe remembers like the last Tuesday, but he doesn't. I don't think he knows about the Wednesday thing at all.
No.
And the 6 months. Sam doesn't share in that episode. So
Nope.
that's fun. Anyway. Dean describes the whole grave in the gas station, shows off his handprint, and they're just like, Sam probably made a demon deal because that's what Dean would do. Because everybody is perfectly healthy.
So healthy.
Everyone's fine.
Mentally well.
Dean calls the phone company claiming to be Wedge Antilles with social security number ending in 2474, which is obviously a Star Wars reference. Commander Wedge Antilles' character, he and Luke Skywalker were the only surviving members of the Red Squadron when Luke blew up the Death Star in Episode 4, A New Hope. And he also helped blow up the Death Star too in Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. So, pretty prominent character in like the OG Star Wars movies.
I did not know that was Star Wars. I thought it was just some dude in
It's
a band.
really-
I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, it's usually either a sci-fi reference or a dude in a band. So, like, kind of a crapshoot if you don't recognize
I feel
the name.
like Wedge Antilles is like, I don't know, Star Wars is such a popular franchise, and like Wedge Antilles doesn't even sound like a real name. I just feel like that's such a risky alias to use, but
Yeah.
okay.
But you use
And
it
it
with your
feels like
phone
a
company.
weird
Most
one
people
for-
are not looking at it. Like, most
Sure.
people are
Yeah.
not looking at your. That's not like one you're having to use a whole lot if you're just using it for a phone.
Yeah. And I mean, he's got a social security number. Who can argue with that?
It does feel weird for like Sam to use it because like he's not the one I associate with actual nerdy stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's like an
I think-
alias
I
Dean
think
would use.
Star Wars in particular is an interest of Sam's, especially in like some of the later seasons.
Yeah, and thinking about like the age he is,
Yeah.
even if it's not like it's close enough that it then is memorable. And they did tend to choose
Yeah.
names that they could use to find each other with.
That's
So
true.
it is
That's true.
that may be because it's very recognizable for Dean.
Bobby is straight up like, how the fuck did you know that Sam would use that name? And he's just like,
Like, what do I
I'm-
not know about that kid?
Yeah.
Like,
I fucking raised this kid. I don't know what you want me to
that
say.
is my child.
He's like that. If there's one thing I know how to do, it's find
fucking
Sam when he
find
doesn't want to be
Sam, yeah.
found.
Yeah, really is Dean's like one of Dean's primary talents, really. Dean then calls Bobby out for the volume of empty liquor bottles on his desk, and Bobby admits he's been drowning in his grief over Dean's death a little bit, which is
Very
very
pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little hypocritical. It's also very touching that Bobby's so upset that Dean died. That is his
That Bobby fell
child.
apart. Like Bobby.
Yeah.
And his child died, and his other child like fucked off in his
Yeah.
own grief. Like
Yeah.
Bobby's just like, yeah, I've got one kid that's dead and one kid that will probably be dead soon,
Yeah.
trying to rescue the other kid.
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like Bobby probably could have found Sam if he like tried a little bit harder, but
Yeah. It's just like sometimes if Bobby has any flaws, which he has very few,
very few.
it's that sometimes he like does that thing where he'll give them a
Little too much space. But yeah, also I think sometimes Bobby is like a little bit afraid of Sam.
And like Dean is his favorite.
Dean is absolutely Bobby's favorite. I think that Sam makes Bobby nervous on like a fundamental level. Oh no, we lost August. August and I have talked about this a few times on different podcast episodes about how like Sam and Dean both have like a disregard for like risk, but like not in the same way. Like Dean will do something and not have thought about the risk, whereas Sam will have thought about the risk and just decided it doesn't matter. But the end result is still them doing something absolutely insane.
I think Dean does consider the risk. And I think where I see the difference is like Dean considers the risk, accepts it, as long as it's like something happening to him and
not to
alone.
someone else. Yeah.
And whereas like Sam considers the risk and he will hurt himself.
Yeah.
Which I think is where they differ. Like Dean is not the most like he doesn't he very rarely directly self-harms himself.
Yeah, I also think Dean will consider when Dean does consider the risk, he'll consider it, and like as long as the risk is to his own person, he's fine. Whereas I think Sam will consider the risk and he'll go, well, I'll just solve that later. Like, Dean has accepted that the risk will happen and he's fine with that happening. Whereas Sam's like, the risk will happen, but it won't because I'll just make it better. Yeah. Sam's in Pontiac, Illinois, near where Dean was buried, which gives me 800 questions because they were in New Harmony, Indiana when Dean died, which is 4 hours driving away.
Why did they bury him
Why?
4 hours away?
Yeah.
Not come up with. I've been thinking about this like since you mentioned it yesterday, and I don't have a narrative answer that makes sense to me.
Greenville, Illinois is where Mary was buried in 204. But I believe those are still like 30 to 60 minutes away from each other. Like they're not that close either. Also, like this is not the cemetery where Mary was buried. This is like a field in the middle of nowhere.
Well, and it wouldn't even been a field. It was just the woods.
Yeah.
It was in a fucking forest.
Yeah, like, there was a little clearing and forest.
Like, that's a nice place to bury someone, but like 4 hours away when their body is destroyed by hellhounds.
Did Sam pick Dean's body, which was, absolutely destroyed up, put him in the car and drive him to another state 4 hours away?
Well, and him and Bobby did it together because Bobby says, we had to bury you.
Yeah.
And they did that together. So, like, whose idea was this and why?
It's not just we just were like Sam refusing to like move on and whatever. Whenever Sam died at the end of season 2, Dean just straight up refused to bury Sam. Like,
it's a Winchester trait.
He was on like a mattress in the basement or something. Like,
just like on the bed, and like Bobby's like, we should really do something, and Dean's like, no.
Dean's like, absolutely not. I'm gonna sit with this corpse until I'm ready.
That's why I wasn't sure when I first watched it. I wasn't sure if he was actually dead or just in a coma.
Yeah.
I was like, why? Why wasn't he even covered with a sheet? Like,
when I watched it with my partner had the same reaction of being like, oh, well, he's not actually dead. So yeah, that makes sense that he comes back. Of course he's not dead. So he doesn't have to come back to life. He's not dead. And I was like,
no.
I'm actually just going to tell you right straight up that he is dead. This is just unhinged behavior going on right now.
We consulted with Jamie, and Jamie was like, maybe it's the field from 516. Dark Side of the Moon that Sam and Dean burned down. Like, maybe it's the sentimental value of the field. But again, this isn't really a field, it's forest before, so I don't think that works either. Thank you, Jamie, for your contribution.
I think it's just one of those things we should just attribute to like divine intervention. Some fucking angel put that idea in Sam's head, and he was like, all right. Like, that's the best explanation for it.
That seems all right.
Like, Cass was like, okay, this is where my closest
I think it would have
been
cooler if Dean like respawned in like Lawrence or something, somewhere meaningful, but whatever. Sam's at the Astoria Hotel in Pontiac, Illinois. They get there, a girl opens door, assumes that they're there to deliver pizza, and Sam is just shocked to see Dean.
The fucking pizza. So we talked about pizza on the last podcast I was on too, and I just the fucking pizza, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Starts here.
Jared has beefed up between seasons 3 and 4. Like, he was always like a tall guy, but he got really solid between seasons 3 and 4. Like, Jared's gotten buff. And like I don't really think of Supernatural as like a CW like model show, even though obviously like Jared and Jensen are like very attractive. But like I don't think of them as like Riverdale or like One Tree Hill or Nancy Drew or like Gossip Girl, like the other CW shows. Like, but I also think that if the CW plopped Jared and Jensen into a high school setting, it would absolutely feel like that. Like, that is the difference, is that they're playing characters that are actually adults. That's the only difference.
I mean, you can test that theory of like they both did play characters in high school on the CW prior.
Yeah, but they were young prior.
Well, he wasn't in high school. He was a high school teacher dating a high school student, which I did not know.
No, but just don't even think about it.
Which is a whole choice.
They figured their shit out. They're happily married now, and let's just pretend that was all that ever happened. Let's just pretend that was the only people they were ever involved with.
I'm sorry, I just looked up a thing that answers our question about why Pontiac. Jimmy Novak. He's getting his vessel. He's
Okay,
getting
yeah.
his vessel. I just am like, why did
That does make sense.
Like when I was talking about divine intervention, I was like, Cash just planted that idea in Sam's head
Yeah.
because that's where his closest vessel was.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I'm going to accept that because it's better than just like having no explanation, but also I feel like it's actually the other way around. That Jimmy's from Pontiac because of this episode, but anyway, at least they went back and there was continuity one way or the other. You know, it's an improvement.
Yeah.
Sam has basically the same reaction as Bobby. Bobby has to like hold Sam down so he doesn't kill Dean. And then they have a very long hug, and Sam's like just in a t-shirt, which I think makes this moment like really vulnerable. You know, like he's down to a single layer. Dean's shirt and jacket are like almost the same colors. They blend really well. It feels like Dean's honestly only wearing one shirt instead of multiple. Sam does.
He's pretty stripped down this episode.
Yeah,
Actually,
he really was. He really
really
was. Like,
I mean, you have to be able to access the handprint like
Yeah,
three
you have
to be able
times.
to show it off.
So
Yeah,
they
true.
need him to not have to take off multiple layers to do
Yeah.
that every time.
But they felt very like naked to me in this moment.
Yeah.
But
And then they had to fucking ruin it.
yeah.
They
Sam.
get a goddamn incest joke.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Ugh.
Ugh.
Like who?
God
okay, but
forbid men be vulnerable.
who sees two people who have like clearly not seen each other, who are clearly just really relieved to see the
Yeah.
other person hugging, and immediately goes, they're obviously lovers.
Yeah.
Like that's a possibility.
I
but,
think
like,
this was just Ruby having a fucking
No,
go at
it
them.
was
Honestly,
definitely
like
It was just Ruby fucking with them, but it's also like they are in the Midwest in 2008.
yeah.
do you think even
And
if
they're
they
in front
were
of a gruff old man in a
I
fucking
have-
trucker hat? Like,
Yeah, I have this
yeah.
problem every time someone makes this assumption in the 2000s out loud to their faces. Like it's just
like, do you think that because like even making that assumption could get you like
Yeah.
you violently treated violently? Like it just is not. People are don't say that out loud.
no.
They
Yeah.
insinuate that
I'll-
like these are
I'll give them in Vermont. I'll give them
Mhm.
Vermont, the B&B.
and
but,
the way
like,
that's
even-
asked, it's very colloquial. It's not a
Yeah.
direct ask.
yeah. Sam does put on an additional shirt for protection while he kicks Ruby out of the room.
protection.
Like he has one shirt on, and then like the next moment he's kicking her out of the room and he's wearing another shirt that he wasn't wearing before.
That's true. Also, like, they just fucked.
Yeah, they
Like,
did.
even
Yeah.
that word Ruby, like,
Oh yeah,
you just had sex with that man. Like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
is my
He also like
right. Like why would you?
he also
so many
pretends.
questions.
Sam pretends to get her name wrong.
Oh, classy,
Which is-
classy action.
I don't think Sam was pretending. I think Ruby was pretending.
Yeah.
Because they didn't come up with a fake name for her.
Yeah.
So he just came up with one, and she was like,
And then she was like, I can keep fucking with them.
She's
Yeah.
like, well, and she's also like, I can make sure our cover is more secure
Yeah.
Yeah.
if I
I also think
just pretend like I am just some random person that he hooked up with that is going
Yeah.
to have no consequence. Like,
Yeah. Also, apparently, when Genevieve auditioned, like, the listing was for a waitress named Christy.
okay.
So, like,
Interesting.
hilarious, actually. It's actually pretty funny.
But Dean's always happy to see Sam perform his sexuality like correctly. So I think like also I don't know how much Ruby and Sam have talked over the last 4 months, but it feels like a fuck ton. So I
It
would
feels
not
like
be
a lot.
surprised if Ruby did this whole name thing, just to like make Sam like look like a bit more of a player than he really is, just to like
I think so.
add on to the image that Sam's
Yeah.
presenting.
Yeah. Which, yeah, is quite funny.
ugh.
They then do the whole rigmarole where they're like, Sam, what did you do? And Sam's like, it wasn't me, but he wishes it was him. And Sam's like, I tried to make a demon deal and I tried opening the Devil's Gate. And I feel like everyone glossed right the fuck over that. Like,
Right. You
Yeah.
tried to open the Devil's Gate.
There-
Historically, the thing that fucked up everything in
Everything.
season 3. Like, everything was so fucked up because of that in season 3.
also, like, Azazel maybe shouldn't have taken the John Winchester deal, because Sam would have just fucking opened the Devil's Gate for him.
Yeah.
And Sam
me
apparently
too.
will take. Apparently, the way to get Sam to open the Devil's Gate, you don't need to trick Sam into it. You just need to,
Just need to promise him that you'll give Dean back, and he would have fucking popped that
And he
box
would've-
right open for you.
immediately.
Yeah,
It's really
even-
not that hard to manipulate the
Yeah.
Winchesters. You just have to know how.
really not.
We didn't have to do
No.
that whole fighting to the death special swim thing. We could have just popped that box right open. Anyway, Bobby says like if Sam didn't pull you out, like something else did. So that's a problem, something we should be concerned about. And Sam's like, I was here hunting Lilith. And Bobby compares him directly to John, which is, you know what? Not untrue.
Did?
Yeah.
I missed that.
He was like, that sounds familiar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a comparison directly to John fucking off and looking for Azazel for 20 years.
Yeah.
That helped. Sam's like, I was following some demons, they came to Illinois, here we are. And Bobby's like, I know a psychic we should go talk to. And then Sam takes off the amulet, which he's been wearing the whole time. It was really visible with his like single gray t-shirt. Like you could like see it under the t-shirt. But I do kind of feel like it was under the t-shirt because Jensen's complained so many times about being smacked in the face with it that like Jared purposely like stuck it underneath the shirt to avoid making that happen.
What? I do not know this piece of BTS.
The cord on the amulet is exactly the right amount to hit your teeth when it flies up into your face, and
oh my god,
that's why Jensen asked for it to be written out at some point because
he asked for it. Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that.
Dean is very happy to have it back on. He puts it on, restores their brotherly bond symbolism. Very good. We're all happy for that. Dean lies and says that he doesn't remember anything about hell. But our next scene is Dean looking at himself in the mirror and having hell flashbacks. So we know he's a liar. It's fine. Everyone's a liar in this episode.
Lying liar lies.
Yeah. Bobby takes his own car so that Dean and Sam can take the Impala. Dean's very horrified that Sam's installed iPod jack in the Impala, and he's listening to Jason Mann's song Vision. Jason Mann's a longtime friend of Supernatural. He goes to a lot of the conventions still. He's sung with Jensen as well as a lot of the other cast members and Steve Carlson, who's Jensen's bandmate and radio company. He's very connected with the show. I don't know if he's like Jensen's friend originally or someone else's, but like they've been friends for a long time.
Yeah, every time I see him at it, like his name at the cons, I'm like, who the fuck is that? Like, I have no idea.
I can give it told every single time.
Yeah,
I've been told, and I will forget it. Which I feel very terrible about, but it's just the way
guy.
it is.
He does music. He acts a little bit, mostly just does music, and he's just like a friend of Jensen, and it's turned into a job.
I mean, honestly, good for him. Get that.
Yeah.
Get that bag.
All of his cover. He has a lot of albums doing covers, and like Jensen's on a lot of his albums. I listen to them quite often. Especially before Radio Company existed. That was like some of like the most accessible Jensen music. Aside from like con videos. So yeah, Jason Mans. Dean just yanks the iPod out and tosses it in the backseat, and they just don't listen to music on the drive at all. Instead, Sam tells us that Lilith tried to kill him after she killed Dean, but she couldn't, which we saw in the previous episode. Dean was not thrilled to hear that Sam was immune to demon slaying, whatever it is that Lilith does to kill people. And Sam's like, Ruby's dead as far as I know, and I swear I haven't been using my powers or any of that other weirdo crap. And it was practically Dean's dying wish. So of course Sam didn't do that, wouldn't have dreamed of it.
Right. Which again, Sam, historically, this is not, I'm like, Sam gets all like upset that Dean would dare to think that he could possibly have gone dark side, even a tiny bit, which is, I'm like,
and then
Sam,
10 minutes later, it's like Sam has been doing the weird.
You're like, Sam, honey, first off, you are lying.
He's sneaking out of the house, like.
Yeah.
Like, first off, you are straight up lying. Second off, you absolutely, it's fair that they're suspicious.
They go to Pamela's. Pamela's thrilled to see Bobby, hugs him, lifts Bobby off of his feet when she hugs him.
Really cute. The dynamic they have is very cute.
I tried to think of a single other character who could get away with doing that without being stabbed or shot, and I like genuinely couldn't think of anyone else.
No, I think it's just Pam.
That is Pamela's special secret power. She hasn't found anything while they've been driving up there, so they decide to do a seance and look at whoever or whatever raised Dean, and Pamela has a lower back tattoo that says Jesse Forever, which he was not. She says that might be to Dean's benefit, and Sam warns Dean that Pamela will eat him alive, and Dean's like, I'm up for it. And then Pamela fights Sam.
Okay.
Which
okay.
Yeah. She also calls Sam grumpy, which is like, I'm sure it's very rare Sam gets compared to a dwarf of any kind, let alone one of the 7 dwarves. But this show just like hates women so much. Like, so many women are here just to be sexualized or to sexualize the boys. But when the characters are here just to sexualize the boys, there's nothing that will make me happier about it than someone who's an equal opportunist. In my opinion, the Winchesters are like Pokemon or Supernatural podcasts or stickers. It's worth trying to have them all. Dean also immediately disagrees, says Sam's not invited, and I'm very happy to hear that there are any boundaries between these two.
Yeah. It's like, you know what? That's no. No.
Unexpected take from Dean, who has anecdotally seemed to have encountered a lot of sets of twins who have no boundaries about sex. But I am glad to hear that the boundaries are in place between Sam and Dean.
Well, that's because it's like women, and like women don't count.
Yeah.
Right, women's sexuality isn't like the
Men's,
same.
Yeah.
Not
but
like
honestly,
like brothers aren't fetishized the same way like female twins are. So
that's so true.
Yeah. Ugh.
Everyone sits and joins hands, and Pamela full on touches Dean's dick without asking, which isn't a great look. But
no.
Oh,
But also,
it's really-
it's just like, well, he definitely didn't touch me there, and it's like
maybe he did though.
maybe
did
like
though.
maybe
a little bit.
maybe a little bit.
Also, like
You did have to like
theoretically,
remake it.
rebuilt built him like atom by atom. So
Yeah.
like,
he knows it.
yeah,
He knows
He
it.
did have some contact with it.
yeah. They get to the seancing, and the TV and the radio turn on, and the ringing starts. And Pamela communes with someone named Castiel, who warns her not to look at him, but she demands to look at their face. And Pamela's eyes burn out of her head because that is totally okay.
Totally a thing that you could expect to have happen if you're a psychic doing a seance.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a normal occurrence. Nothing to worry about at all, I'm sure.
Also, like something I think about so often is when Bobby's like, call 911.
Oh, that's my
what
next
the
note.
fuck do they say?
My
How
next
do you
note
explain this?
is word for word is Sam calls 911 and we hear him on the phone, but not what he's saying. And I just think we would have really benefited, and by we I mean me, if we had heard the lie Sam told the operator. What the fuck do the paramedics think happened to this woman? Like
how?
Good question.
Her eyes are burnt out of her skull. There's three.
Nothing else is burned.
Nothing else
It's
is
just
damaged.
her eyes.
Did they think she somehow burnt both her eyes out so thoroughly on those candles on the table? Like, what the actual fuck did they say?
I'm so. But anyway. To the show, like there is blue light reflected on Dean's face during this scene.
Oh, excellent! I'm really glad someone was paying attention to the lighting because I wasn't.
I paid so much attention to it.
This episode does feel like the most saturated episode to date.
So colorful.
Yeah, the colors are
strange.
Not various shades of gray and green.
Yeah, like Dean's eyes are so fucking green.
Yeah. Like even at some point I was like, wow, Sam's eyes are really popping. I'm like, there's not nearly the color to work with there as there is with Dean or Cass.
Like they really went.
They really did. Sam and Dean are then at a diner getting food, and Bobby's at the hospital with Pamela, who seems like she's gonna make it, even if she is blind. So we're glad for that. Because you know, Pamela seemed great before. A little touchy, but you know, not in a I want to kill her kind of way.
Yeah.
Dean wants to maybe try summoning Castiel themselves, and Sam's like, try finding the demons that I was following. See why they suddenly appeared in the same town that you were resurrected in.
Also, they are talking so loud,
so loudly,
empty ass diner about like demons and resurrections, and like, well, we have a name, Castiel. Why does Dean say it like that, Castiel? Castiel, because like no one else said that. Sam was like, I don't scare easy, Castiel. Like, and he's just
it doesn't feel right in Dean's mouth, and he can't figure out why. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah. He has to be special. Like, he has to call him something different than everyone else.
But it turns out they don't. It turns out Sam's gonna get his wish first, because the waitress comes over and sits down, and she's the demon that Sam was looking for. And so is a couple of the other people in the diner, like the only other people there. And Dean's like, I don't know how I got out, but I know if you could send me back, or you knew who sent me up here, you would have by now. So I'm not really worried about it. And he also makes the Silence of the Lambs reference, which feels like a little bit of a weak reference to me, but like, I guess we can be generous. Like, Dean was dead recently. Not on his A game with the banter. He just straight up slapped the stupid in the face twice.
Yeah, I was like, I often forget how violent this show was towards
they really are
how unnecessarily violent,
and like how often like Sam and Dean are the ones being violent to the women.
Mm-hmm.
He goes from like making fun of her and like making a sound to the man. So yeah, it's like straight up backhanding her in the face twice. Like,
Well, and it's just like Sam and Dean, when they enact violence on like female characters, it's often like possessed characters,
yeah,
and that's the justification for like why. But it's just
it's still very violent.
it's
Like,
still very violent towards people in female bodies primarily, and that's just really
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
ugh.
I feel like we cannot stress enough like how large Jensen and Jared are. Like they are
Yeah.
like large
Yes,
men.
yes,
They are. Jensen, his hands are so like large. They're so big.
they're so large.
Yeah.
They are. And
Yep.
like I think also the fact that they use the justification of like, oh, well, the women were enacting all this violence against aren't people. They're monsters and creatures, or
Yeah.
like hollowed out husks of like bodies walking around, which is just further dehumanizes
Yeah.
and denies women like their personhood. So it's like still fucking sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and their agency, like
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. I feel like they're always more violent towards like the female monsters.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there is sometimes like a additional level of violence too, and like I don't know. In this
There's
case,
like a
this woman
gratuity
doesn't
of
even
violence.
this woman doesn't even fight back in this moment too. Like Dean slaps her, she does nothing, and Dean just slaps her again,
Like it's very
and then they
like
stand up and they walk out.
Yeah,
Like
because Dean's whole thing, you can't actually hurt me because it's too risky for you. And so it's very, which just like reads not great when you're going like a male character is going like, you can't do anything or else you'll be met with more violence, which is just like, it's just
yeah.
like, it doesn't matter that it's a monster character.
Just like,
Like, that's
saying
not
that, like,
the
you
point.
can hurt like a woman because she literally can't fight back or she'll be punished more severely than you ever will
Is
be.
just,
yeah,
is
Yeah.
not
Not a great
good.
look.
It's not good. No, it's not
No.
good.
yeah,
What it's implying is really, really concerning.
Yeah.
yeah,
And like I don't know, even like the way he hit her felt very gendered. Like that was a backhand. It's not like he was punching
Yeah.
her.
no,
Like-
no, that felt like every like scene of DV I've ever seen on TV. Like
Yeah.
that backhand. Anyway, I do like that when they walk out, both of them like kind of like have a little freak out of like, holy shit, that happened, and that was almost a really like outnumbered us versus demon situation. I do like that they're a little rattled by it, and that some of that was like an act, like a front that they were putting up. But like, I'd also like to say Dean leaves money for the pie, even though it
Yeah,
seems
he's
like
just, like,
every
for the
single
pie.
it seems like every single person in this diner who works here is possessed, and so like
Or
probably
dead.
or dead. So it's, and I just like to remind everyone that he robbed the gas station for that money, and he left these demons money for
He's
pie.
He's spreading
Listen.
money around in the economy
Listen,
during a
I
recession.
don't think we can fault him for stealing the money. Like what would you do if you were like
I agree.
in hell for 40 years, crawled out of your own grave, and then had to walk however many miles to find any semblance of civilization? Like what the I would steal.
I agree. I just think it's funny that he left the money for the pie that he stole from the gas station. But
I think that was more of a power move though.
yeah, it was. Dean also says the smarter brother is back in town, and they should focus on like who got him out now that they've seen the demons.
I
And he is
appreciate a good
correct.
moment of Dean being like, I am smart, because
Yeah,
so much of
I
his
also
earlier
really-
persona has been like being like, oh, I'm not the
Yeah.
smart
Yeah.
one, and like putting up with Sam backhands insults about his intelligence. So I appreciate that he's like, no, I am the smarter.
yeah,
Yeah, especially like personally, I find it very gratifying because like I get in shit for saying I think Dean is smarter than Sam. Because like just because like Sam reads more books doesn't mean jack shit
Yeah,
about his
I'm
actual
a
level of
Sam-
intelligence.
I'm a Sam stan, and I do think Sam is incredibly smart. And I
Oh
just
yeah,
think
absolutely.
yeah.
I think Dean is smart in a very different way that Sam severely
think-
lacks.
I think
There's
actually
some
comparing their intelligence is really like,
Difficult.
it's comparing very different
Yeah,
kinds of intelligence and skill sets.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of times when it comes to like wisdom, Dean is far superior to Sam.
Yeah.
I think Sam
Yeah.
lacks wisdom
Well, Sam's
often.
arrogance. I think Sam's arrogance gets in the way of his wisdom quite often because
Yeah,
he
I
thinks he
agree.
knows. He thinks he's smart,
Yeah.
and so he will say things that are not very smart.
We have a segment at the end where we talk about like how many times Sam's been knocked out, and I was just editing 308, which is coming out tomorrow, and we were having a discussion about like how much smarter Sam would be if he hadn't been knocked out so many times, and how much smarter Dean would be if he wasn't drinking all the time. Like the two of them really are just like burning through brain cells for no real reason.
Their capacity is so much larger than
than it could
their
be.
trauma is allowing them to
Yeah.
utilize.
Well, right now Dean's firing on all fucking cylinders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Brand new body.
Yeah,
It's true.
theoretically, his
No-
brain and liver should be like undamaged slightly.
Well, other than the 40 years of hell trauma.
Yeah. Cut to Dean
That
sleeping.
was his that was his soul, not his physical body. So it doesn't count. It's fine.
Cut to Dean sleeping at the motel room, and Sam sneaking out and taking the car. I feel like at this point, stealing a different car would have been a better move.
Yeah.
But Sam takes the Impala, which I feel like gets him in more trouble than leaving.
Also,
would've.
like,
Yeah.
baby is so fucking loud. Like, if you're
Yeah,
trying to
I'm
speak
honestly
out,
so
that is not.
shocked.
And Dean is so attuned to that car's sound. Like, you're not telling me that,
They
like,
really both are. The fact that Dean didn't wake up.
and the fact that Dean could be sleeping deeply enough after hell to not hear the Impala.
Well, he
I
woke up
mean-
after it.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just,
I feel like, we can chalk that up to like it's been a very long fucking day digging like it's all been one day basically.
Yeah.
But like, oh my
Yeah, so-
gosh, it's yeah, I agree. But Dean is woken up by the TV and the radio fritzing and the high-pitched squealing and the mirrors crack and the lights and the windows, and Bobby happens to be on his way back, and so he arrives on this scene. It makes no sense that they're actually back in Pontiac, Illinois, after being at Pamela's, because again, that was 4 hours away, allegedly. But anyway, Bobby's come back, and so they like get out of there, and they call Sam, who claims to be getting a burger, and Dean's like, yeah, we're gonna grab a beer. Really, they're gonna go summon Castiel, and Sam's going to go take out the demons, because everybody's fucking lying to everybody.
Yeah, on the people lying to each other show. Very.
I think the most insane thing about this, though, speaking of Sam not being the smart one, is Dean pulls out the demon blade, which means that Sam went to go to the diner to deal with these demons and didn't even take the demon blade with him.
Because he's cocky.
He's so arrogant, like so arrogant, so sure of his abilities. Everyone in the diner has had their eyes burned out, except for the one demon. I mean, even including the one demon who
She just
Dean
wasn't
slapped.
dead.
She just wasn't dead yet. She says she saw it, and it's the end. We're dead. We're all dead, which proves to not be totally true. But Sam does his psychic thing, and he pulls the demon out of this woman with his mind. That thing he told Dean he absolutely had not been doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's gotten good at that.
And then Ruby shows up.
Yeah, Ruby shows up, and that's when we find out she's Ruby. And she says that no demon could have possibly pulled Dean out of hell. Nothing she's seen before could either. So that's great news.
Yeah.
We're
Fantastic
thrilled.
news. I'm just gonna throw out my hot take. I prefer brunette Ruby to blonde Ruby.
I also prefer brunette Ruby. I think Jen does a great job.
I think they just also have better chemistry, which makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they have good chemistry.
yeah, that chemistry really built really fast.
Yeah.
I guess again, for people who aren't all caught up on supernatural news that's like ancient, but Jared and Jen eventually went on to get married and have 3 children.
Like they literally fell in love on this set.
On
and it's
this
like,
set. This is how they met and fell in love, which is very sweet.
yeah. Like I'm not a big Jared fan, but I will say
And they've now
like
been
it does
married
kind
10
of like
years with 3 kids.
Yeah.
like watching like the behind the scenes footage of them like on set during like the season, like it does kind of like warm my heart because they are just
Yeah.
so stupidly
They
cute.
do seem like a very sweet family. Obviously, like we only see like them as they portray themselves online, but they just seem like a very loving couple. And like they have a very beautiful house and
They do.
3 really cute kids, and they have like farm animals and gardens, and just seems like they're really living their lives.
They get lice. They're just like us.
Yeah, they work together a lot. they've worked together on like a lot of projects since Supernatural. Pretty much anything Jared does, Jen ends up doing as well.
Good for her.
Yeah.
She got to play his dead wife.
Yeah. She has a recurring role as Jared's dead wife. Good times. But yeah, I'm really glad that this is where we're at. Dean and Bobby have super warded a barn, and they have every weapon they know at the ready. And Bobby's still like, we shouldn't do this, but Dean's really sure that they should do it, so they're doing it. And then we're back with Ruby and Sam, and they're talking about Dean, and Ruby's like, Dean's not going to like any of this psychic stuff, and I should maybe step away because there's going to be inevitable conflict between you. Sam's like, I don't know if this is the right thing, and I don't know if I trust you, but I like that I get to get rid of demons and save people, so I might keep doing it. I just feel like if he just hadn't lied to Dean, like when Dean asked about it, like so much of this would be better.
Oh, maybe they, it's still not going to be great, but it's going to be a lot easier to like have that conversation and maybe come up with a plan preemptively rather than him inevitably finding out down the road and it blowing up in your face.
I don't think Dean would
like
approve.
Fucking sneaky about it. Like,
but I do think honestly so much of the inevitable fight that is coming is about the lying about it. And I'm just not really sure why. I mean, I can think of reasons why Sam would choose to lie, but I'm just not sure I could think of those reasons where they outweigh the the telling the truth. But I do think Sam is ashamed of it, honestly. I think Sam's always been worried about feeling like a freak, and he knows that Dean classifies this as freak behavior. But I just don't think that outweighs the benefits of telling him the truth and being honest with his brother. But who am I? It wouldn't be a show if there was no conflict. Can't really complain about it. Back to the angel. That's what we want.
Yes.
Bobby and Dean are like sitting, waiting for something to happen, and they're a bit too relaxed about it, in my opinion. They've started to get bored.
I think Bobby is the correct level of alert. Dean's just fucking sitting there on a table. Like,
I mean,
he's not
like twirling the knife around. Just
the potential is that this is something bad. They did raise you from hell. Like,
and like
on
maybe
your side to up to some point.
And like maybe like I don't know, because like he was like branded. Like my personal headcanon is like that's like a branding on his soul. So I think maybe
I agree.
Like part of Dean was just like I feel like I can trust. I need to meet this creature, but I feel like I can
my
trust
subconscious.
it.
My subconscious is not as afraid. Is not actually that afraid.
Yeah. Because like the shots that we get in the beginning of the episode, I think convey that like that is like of him in hell. Like that is like during the rescue, because the lights go from being like dark and red to like flashes of like pure white.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say about the scene, to be honest. Eric Kripke has said several times that he's like really proud of this entrance, and I think he has every right to be. It is incredible. I copied and pasted the transcript for the next like till the end of the episode, basically. Cass coming in through the barn and the sparks and the shooting and the everything.
It's a perfect scene.
I like love that like the barn, it looks so much smaller until Cass gets there, and then it's like his presence like physically expands
the space.
Like the ceilings even look higher, and then also like apparently like Misha like did get burned like on his scalp during the filming, but he was just like, I need this fucking job.
Sparks everywhere.
A lot of Misha's job on Supernatural being like, well, kind of this sucks, but I need this job.
Also, like I feel like I can talk about this because it's for a different show. Like the fact that like Kripke like basically copy and pasted this entrance to introduce two love interests to each other and the boys, and I'm supposed to like just be normal about that. I'm not supposed to think that means anything.
It's supposed to be like this means nothing. There's no parallels going on.
Nothing to see here at all.
Nothing to see.
Eric Kripke, I'm in your walls, pounding on them. Please tell me what has happened.
So we get I'm the one to grip to Titan raise you for perdition, and which vessel, like what visage are you in now? Holy Taxicam.
Also like the lighting is like now it's just straight blue toned.
Yeah.
Which makes his eyes pop
Oh, so good.
insanely.
Cast is the wings thing and the like, and he's like, I told Pamela not to look at me, and I honestly I don't even know how to talk about this normally because like it is just a perfect scene.
Oh my god. And like, okay, so I have to there are several things that make me insane about this scene. But like one of the things that makes me the most insane is like the when Dean stabs him like through the heart. I just feel like that's very like one, like neither phallic object stabbing is a very like sexually coded thing, but also like just like the idea of like he's literally penetrating Cass's heart, and that was like kind of like because like so I read like the wiki page for Lazarus on Bethany, which first of all, I think it's stupid and confusing that there are two Lazarus in the Bible. Because I'm most familiar with like the leper Lazarus. So I'm like anyway, like they are a couple theologians. Maloney and Harrington. I have no fucking idea who these people are. View the raising of Lazarus as a pivotal miracle, which starts the chain of events that leads to the crucifixion. They consider it a resurrection that will lead to death, in that the raising of Lazarus will lead to the death of Jesus, the Son of God, which like is interesting in a very like broad
That's very interesting.
arc of the whole show of like this is a pivotal moment for Cass,
No.
and then
No.
you know where I'm going with this.
No, I hate this.
And like it's like I don't know. I just makes me kind of like I read that I was like, are you fucking shitting me? Like, because even just like this season contained, like that's the perfect way to describe the arc. It's just very like, all right.
The stabbing thing for me really does a thing for my brain because like I don't know. I know I've read this somewhere, but I can't find any sources to back up this story at all. But I have heard that Misha auditioned to play Prince Charming in Once Upon a Time. And then
I've heard that too.
Supernatural
Also
happened,
heard that.
And because of that, Prince Charming went from a one episode character to a series regular for 6 years. Because Josh Dallas was so great in the role that Misha would have gotten. And Josh Dallas and Jennifer Goodwin fell in love and had 2 kids while they played love interests on Once Upon a Time. But in Once Upon a Time, like it's a big thing where the love interests like hit each other in the face with a object. Usually it's a rock, just like the nearest rock.
Okay.
No, White and Prince Charming have done it a couple of times when their various stories have been reset. Emma and Hook have done that. Like it's just a thing, but you smack the future love of your life in the face on that show, and like stabbing them, it feels like that same vein.
Yeah, I do think it is just very much a choice to choose the heart, where like you could just stab them anywhere in the body and that blade would have killed them if you were a demon.
So we do the stabbing and the shooting and the wings and the I'm an angel and the vessel conversation. And then Dean asks like, why would an angel rescue me from hell? And Cass says, good things do happen, Dean. And Dean says, not in my experience. And Cass says, what's the matter? You don't think you deserve to be saved? And Dean doesn't say yes or no to that question.
And it's all in the implications.
It's so insane. Because like good things do happen. Cass is the good thing. Cass is constantly Dean's win.
Yeah.
And then like just this crazy eldritch horror of a being looking at this tiny little human in his eyes and just like cutting to the bone better than anyone else in his life can.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately knowing that about him.
Yeah, Sam and Bobby didn't have that.
Knowing that about him and oof.
Sam and Bobby were too busy being happy to even think about that emotional aspect for Dean at all. Then Dean asks, why'd you do it? And Cass says, because God commanded it, because we have work for you. And that we have work for you is just such a like simple little perversion of the twice used we have work to do from 101 and 222. Like just a little tweak.
Yeah.
And it's called back to Faith as well.
Yeah.
Oh, the fucking you will be like.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Because also like with what's interesting about that, like the callback to Faith, because like that's where Reapers were introduced, right? And like
Yeah.
Reapers are a species of
Yep.
angel.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yep. It's just full fucking circle.
Yeah, and it's Dean's first death, and the gay guy dies for Dean to live. It's
oh, the gay
And
guy
there's all-
had a
there's
heart
all these heart-
attack
there's
to
all these-
save
yeah.
There's all
Dean's
these heart
like,
metaphors
Yeah.
again.
It all comes back to that, honestly.
It all comes back to Faith.
Yeah, that
does.
is how the episode ends. But there's a deleted scene. I'm hesitant to even call it a deleted scene. It's the same scene. But after
But
says that,
extended, right?
yeah, it's just like it's an extra like 2 lines in it. After Cass says that like this is a whole devout, very devout man. He prayed for this. Dean says maybe he should have just showed up like this in the first place. And Cass is like, it's difficult to find a vessel durable enough to contain me. And Dean says, I have the same problem with women. And then like they go on with the rest of the scene.
Wait,
Which is a whole
Wait.
choice.
I don't even think that's I think that's just, I think this is a case of like Netflix editing the show weird.
It might
Because,
be.
like,
I think it might
because
be.
that is definitely something like when I watched it, like if I watch it on something that is not Netflix, like when I watched it the first time on like
On the
in a
DVDs,
definitely
it's in there,
totally
yeah.
legal manner. Like that was how I saw that scene.
It's on like the DVDs and stuff. It's just on the streaming platforms for whatever reason they've cut that. I don't know if it's for time or what. I do think it's
Well,
very
they also
like
cut the "Don't Fear the Reaper" from Faith, which is fucking
yeah, all the music on season 1 is screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
After season 1, the music is fine. There's just some sort of licensing issue with season 1 for some reason.
I gotta pop.
Okay.
I gotta just
Thank you so much for joining us. We were
It was
happy
really
to
nice
have
to
you.
talk to you again.
thank you for having me. Yes. We'll do it again soon.
Yes, I will put all of August's social medias and everything in the description. And people know where to find you. You've been here so many times.
Bye, friend. Thank you.
Bye, thank you for
Bye.
being with us. Okay, yeah. I mean that's all I want. Is there anything else you want to talk about, like the content of the episode before we get into the end segments?
I guess from like a Destiel perspective, until I like read this like whole long Tumblr post about like the color coding in the episode, I just kind of assumed that like the green and blue were just because of their eye colors.
Yeah, I think I had also assumed that as well. But to see like from episode 1, like that was a thing. Like
Yeah, like that's very interesting because like I'm sure that is like the eye color is part of it, but it's also
and I'm
like,
trying to think about even like in the previous seasons if Dean had been previously assigned like that green coloring, but honestly everything was so grayscale in the first 2 seasons.
it's so drab. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like hard to like have any color coding when it's like there's not much color.
Honestly, I feel like this is the first episode where we've been able to talk about what color things are.
Yeah, which I think is so interesting because like it's kind of like, I don't know, my Heller brain is like Cass brought color to Dean's life,
Yeah.
but like
It does also feel a little bit like, we're still in the Kripke era, but like we're in the back half of the Kripke era now, and like
yeah,
the pure horror aspect is waiting. We don't need to film this like it's a horror movie.
yeah, it's more like existential or like cosmic horror at this
Yeah.
point, and like
It doesn't need to be dark all the time.
yeah, it feels like a new start for the show in a way,
Yeah.
just because like there is now color.
There was scenes in season 3 where they were outside in the broad daylight. It was clearly sunny outside, but it was still dark at the same
It was
time.
gray, like so difficult to watch.
Yeah, like you have to like turn all the lights. You have to like draw the curtains and turn the screen brightness all the way up in order to see what the fuck's happening.
Fucking literally.
But yeah, MVP of the week. Who would you like to nominate as this week's most valuable person?
So every podcast that I've been on that has a question like this, I always choose to say it's Cass. It's always going to be Cass. He's always MVP in my heart, no matter what he's doing. If he's in it, he's MVP.
Yeah, I mean, in this episode in particular, I agree. He is also my MVP. He did the supremely important task of raising Dean Winchester from hell. I feel like that was the most MVP thing anybody in this episode could have possibly done.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else anybody did that even came close. Because honestly, like who even cares what anyone else did?
Yeah. And like, MVP for being so fucking insane from the get. They were
From the
never
get,
gonna
yeah.
be normal about each other.
Not once. Our next segment is the Bechdel test. Do we have 2 named women in this episode? We did have 2 named women. They did not talk to one another. So this episode does not pass the Bechdel test.
it does not, and it was very violent.
It was quite violent towards women. That poor unnamed demon woman, whose
know.
vessel was dead. Like the woman who she was possessing is dead.
Yeah.
This week, our case of the week was angels and demons. We're gonna have lots of opportunity to talk about angels once Meredith is back. I thought I would do some looking for Castiel specifically, but I had a hard time finding anything on fairly short notice for that.
Yeah.
Castiel is not really like super mentioned in the Bible. There's an angel named Castiel without the T.
Yeah. So like, and Castiel is like, I think he's in some translations or versions or whatever, like he's an archangel, and others he's a seraph, which he is in supernatural.
Yeah.
And like he is like the angel of solitude.
Yeah. And sometimes the angel of Saturday.
But for us, he's the angel of Thursday.
Always be the angel of Thursday.
Yeah.
I read one story where he was the second angel to fall. So like after Lucifer was cast out, Castiel was cast out, and he like watched Lucifer in the cage. That was his job, and he was like so close with Lucifer that he got thrown into. He like asked God to throw him in the cage as well, so they could be in the cage together because they were like close brothers.
Oh.
So I was like, I'm not vibing with that story. That is not.
Yeah, I'm vibing with him falling because I think that's a line with his character, but I'm not vibing with him.
I'm not vibing with the Lucifer closeness.
No.
At all. But once Meredith is back, we'll see Cass again. We'll see angels and demons again. We've already talked about demons quite a lot, so I'm sure we'll have an updated mythology section next time. Highlight and low light. Pluto, what was your like highlight for the episode?
Cass.
Cass. Me too. That's all I wrote. I wrote Cass.
Yeah, I can tell you my low light for sure was Sam's hair. Especially in the first scene we saw him in where it was like wet. I just thought it looked so bad. I'm
thinking about Sam's hair. I will say season 4 Sam's hair is definitely on my low end of the Sam hair scale. Not my favorite hair. Season 3 was markedly better.
Yeah, I was on Raising Perdition talking about the monster movie episode, and we spent a while talking about how bad Sam's hair is.
It's not good this season. Season 1 was like the baseline. Season 2 was fine. Season 3 was better than season 2 by a fair amount. Season 4 is somehow worse.
It's so bad. It just frames his face so oddly. Like it's such a weird length.
I think also we're like really into the sideburns now. Like the sideburns are starting to become a feature, and they're not going anywhere. Just get used to them.
Yeah. Like in my opinion, his hair doesn't get good until like season 6.
Yeah.
And it's at its peak in season 8. So it's gonna be a minute.
I think the peak is a little bit later. I think season 13 is my favorite Sam hair, but
I liked the caramel tone to it in season 8.
Yeah. There's benefits there.
Nice.
There's benefits there. It always looks very soft, and like he takes good care of it. But yeah, this is
also I think like the part in season 8 was the most flattering.
Yeah, the part moves around, and that is a very determining factor about how good the hair is. I think that's why the season 3 hair was better than this hair. I think it's where the part was in season 3.
I don't know if I remember what his hair looks like in season 3. I'll have to look, but
I think he had more of like a middle part than what he currently has. This is off to one side in a way that's not working as well.
Yeah.
There was an episode in season 2 where in season 3 where for one scene he had the season 2 hair all again, like his hair got like wet and they like combed it down into his face. And I was like, no, babes, you gotta part it. You gotta
Yeah, no.
And then the next scene it was fixed. So I was like, I guess that was just a temporary blink back into the hair.
Yeah.
It was very odd, but my low light was Sam lying to Dean. I think Dean would have been really upset about the Ruby thing, but I also just think if Sam had been honest that Ruby was alive and he was doing the psychic stuff, we could have been off to a better start.
I love how you have a real one, and I'm just like, I hate his fucking hair.
No, honestly, sometimes your low light is just like, I hate that this character had their fingernails ripped off because I don't like fingernails. Sometimes it's like, I hate that like a really bad thing happened. Sometimes it's just, sometimes it's highlight and low light are what you liked the best and the worst. And sometimes that is Sam's hair.
I guess to get more specific about my highlight, I think Cass's hair looks amazing. It's my favorite.
I always forget what the season 4 hair, like how much the hair actually changes until I get back to this.
Yeah.
This is a different
and like we
look.
just cling to it so aggressively. We're like, his hair is so messy, it can't be controlled, even though like for a vast majority of the show, Like it's gelled down.
Yeah.
So we're just like, no.
No, it's call CPS is our next segment, which is times an adult should have called CPS. I think we're mostly safe this week by virtue of there being no children in this episode. I don't think we need to imminently call CPS. Sam and Dean didn't reveal any like parental atrocities that we didn't already know about.
I think like you could, if you can call CPS on adult, like maybe Bobby should have done that with Sam and the 4 month scene was gone. But
a missing persons report on
yeah,
Sam.
maybe I guess he can't really do that because he's a fucking wanted serial killer.
I think they're legally dead at the moment. From season 3 still. I think they're still legally dead, both of them. So
they're still legally dead. That is true.
Yeah, it's hard to file a missing persons report on someone who's not technically like legally alive. Yeah. Our next segment is the firing squad, which is people who did not perform their job duties correctly. I think mostly people did okay. I do think maybe Pamela was a little overzealous, but I don't want to be victim blaming to Pamela but also she could have stopped. She could have stopped.
She could have listened, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's like not fair to blame Cass for that. Like he was very like,
he was very much like, you should not look at me. And she was like, no, I'm looking.
And it's like, he told her his name.
Yeah.
Like it's not like he was like being shady or evasive.
Yeah.
Like he showed up. He was trying to communicate, but like
he did his best. Yeah. So maybe Pamela. But honestly, I don't even know.
I think she just got a bit too cocky.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's why she's like, she hit on Dean immediately, but then she went like double back for Sam. Honestly, I think she should maybe just like try Sam out for a little bit. Like they have an arrogance level that is maybe an okay match, honestly.
Yeah, definitely closer to each other.
Yeah, our next segment is mental health check. I'm not a psychologist. This segment is based purely on my own opinions. Weekly reminder, if you're struggling with anything else, please reach out for help. This week wasn't the best week regarding mental health. Sam's lying to Dean about the psychic powers. Dean's lying to Sam about the hell trauma. Everyone needs to stop and reconsider why we're so opposed to telling each other the truth.
Bobby's an alcoholic, which like
Bobby,
but like apparently it's worse enough than even
noticeably worse. That as soon as Dean saw him, he's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, that's not.
Sam's also like, even though we later find out that it's Ruby, Sam's like having casual sex, and that has never once been Sam's MO. Like Sam has never engaged in casual sex the entire 3 previous seasons. He's been resistant to even like meaningful sex. Like,
yeah, maybe that was like purposely done to like let us know like something's going on.
Something's going on with Sam.
Something's a little funky.
Either way, it's pretty strongly implied that they were sleeping together, and then we find out that that's Ruby. So that means Sam's fucking a demon. Never a good sign.
Never a good sign, no.
Not great at all. Honestly, I forgot how early that was like given to us. Like I remembered that they were in the motel room. I did not remember like how like undressed they were in that scene. Like,
yeah,
she opens the door to get that pizza in her underwear. Like,
which who does that? Like, who
it's
does
so
that?
Deeply uncomfortable. But also like, there's no, even if they were doing something that like was like more like psychic training related, she wouldn't be in her underwear. Like there's only one reason that she would be so undressed.
Yeah, like they were definitely fucking, but like my thing is like, why in any situation ever
would you open the door to a stranger?
Open your door in your underwear when you think it's a pizza man? Like that man did not, he's just trying to do a job.
Yeah.
He did not sign up.
Yeah,
so, like,
he did not consent.
Naked.
He did not consent to see you in your underwear. And then, honestly, the fact that it's Sam's brother and like dad makes it worse.
So uncomfortable.
So uncomfy. But yeah, everybody's lying to everybody.
Yeah,
everybody's like got bad fucking coping mechanisms. Sam fucking dumped Bobby for 4 months. Like, no one's doing good.
I think Cass is the only person who's in a semi-stable mental health, which is...
That's just because he's new.
Yeah, that's just because he's new and he hasn't had any crises yet.
He hasn't even met Sam yet, technically, so...
I will give Sastiel shippers, like, season 4, because to me, like, that's it's the Great Pumpkin Sam Winchester when they meet, right?
Yeah.
Like, to me, it feels very, like, Sam does, in fact, have a raging crush on Cass. Cass is not interested. He spends 5 minutes in a room like with Cass and Dean together, not even alone, because Uriel's still there. But I think after that, he was like, okay, seems this angel's already spoken for. I'm gonna stick to my demon. Like,
honestly, yeah. I would not consider myself a Sastiel shipper, but sometimes when Cass and Dean like really aren't getting along for whatever reason. I'm just like, Sam's very nice to Cass. Sometimes he's a lot nicer than Dean. I'm a big fan of like just like the chaotic brother-in-law energy that the two of them have when they're left alone together.
Absolutely. I wish that was a dynamic that was explored more because it's always so much fun. It's always so much fun.
Soul transactions, surprisingly none. Despite Sam's very best efforts in the in-between seasons, Sam like literally tried so hard to make a demon deal. He just couldn't pull it off.
So wait, what can you define a soul transaction for me?
So it'd be like a demon deal. What did we have that wasn't a demon deal? Selling your soul to like a demon to like become a witch, which isn't like technically the same thing as like making a deal. Anything like that. Anything where you're like promising your soul to anybody else.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, in my fanon head, I would make an argument that the handprint is a soul transaction, but I guess I wasn't like selling your soul or signing it away to
I'm
anything.
really interested in learning like what you can buy with your soul. What the buying power of a soul is. You can buy a fuck ton with it. I'm compiling a list to see like what the most economical soul thing I could what the most economical transaction I could make with my soul is. So far we haven't gotten too many. We've gotten like career success, saving a loved one from an illness, like the standard things. Now then we have Sam's traumatic brain injury. Sam had none. Sam stayed conscious through this whole episode. I don't know if it's the psychic powers or what, but like he's off to a good start.
He did headbutt that demon twice, but he got up right after, so I think he's fine. He
stayed conscious through that, so like maybe he's building up some like tolerance.
Maybe
it takes a real hit
getting
now.
Thicker.
I would hope, honestly. And then we have our first new segment of the season, which is one-on-one time with Cass. Dean had 2 one-on-one interactions with Cass.
That's true.
When he got pulled out of hell and when they met in the barn. Sam had none.
Well, do we define what like the barn as one-on-one? Because Bobby's technically there.
Once Bobby's unconscious, I count that as them having a separate conversation. When Cass is like knocking Bobby out so they can talk alone, I count that as a single interaction, solo interaction.
Do you think we could count like the gas station and the hotel room as interactions? Because technically they are interacting. Like Cass is speaking to him.
Technically, but I'm gonna say technically yes, but no.
Okay.
They're like a one-sided interaction.
Dean's just scared out of his fucking mind and in pain the whole time.
That brings us very nicely into our next new segment, which is Cass's powers. What can Cass do?
A lot, apparently.
This is the baseline. He can grip Dean tight and raise him from perdition.
Can blow up a forest.
Yep.
In a perfect circle. He can smite people or a room full of demons. Probably like
true form and voice are like overwhelming and potentially fatal. Lights just burst in his presence. Like
fuck with the weather.
Immune to close range shotgun fire. Can knock out a grown man. I mean,
he gets stabbed.
Yeah, stabbed.
Oh, you know what? I always forget this until I watch the episode. When he knocks Bobby out, part of his powers in this episode is like you can hear like his whispering of like all the like I think that's like of his true form, which spoiler alert, I guess, never happens again. So the fuck's up with that?
I'm gonna just for my own sanity chalk that up to him settling into the new vessel, but I don't like it.
I think that does make the most sense of like he's like lightning in a bottle, literally. So like I think he just is. I think 1, showing off a bit, and 2, like is not used to having to like be in the mortal coil. So like he's just a bit much right now. But I think by the time we see him again, he gets a better feel for it.
Yeah. And he gets stabbed with the demon blade, which isn't even like a regular blade. Like that's a high duty kills demons on impact blade.
That is a magic knife that kills many things.
Yeah.
And it was right in his heart. And he was just like, oh, that's so cute. Thank you.
Yeah.
he smiles at you. Like
I felt that.
So funny to me. Like, oh my god. Wow.
I wonder, I feel like Cass is the only person who can like say like if it hurts more to get shot with like the rock salt versus the regular bullet versus like stabbed with a knife versus stabbed with the demon blade. Like does the demon blade hurt more? I mean,
I don't think he feels it at all at this point.
Does he maybe just not feel anything? It's hard to say, honestly. And I think they're a little wishy-washy on what Cass can and can't feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is like the baseline.
Yeah. And he just smiles at Dean like, oh, you brave little ant. I'm like, look at you.
Then we have eyes off the hostages. I think this week we mostly, for the most part, we like, avoided a hostage situation, so I don't think we really have anything to add here.
No one was tied to a chair.
Demon diner situation could have gone that way, but it didn't, which is good.
Yeah.
It's so often someone's tied to a chair. Next, we're gonna name that episode. So we kind of use like the Friends naming convention of like the one where this thing happens, the one where that thing happens, the one with this XYZ. Do you have any suggestions?
I'm not very creative like that, so I don't. My brain doesn't work like that very well.
I have two. I think the first one is the most obvious one. The first one is just like the one where we meet the angel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that tells us everything we need to know about this episode. My second one is the one where Dean claws his way out of the grave. Because even though I feel like Dean dies and comes back a lot of times, there aren't many times he crawls out of a grave.
No, because he's never been buried.
Yeah. Usually they're just like, he'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of it. If not.
To finish off this week's episode, we have line of the week. So did you have a like favorite line of the week? Something that was like funny or cute or maybe emotional or dramatic?
Just the we talked about it like 5 times already, that you don't think you deserve to be saved. And like good things do happen. Just really
I picked 2 because I thought you and August might have similar ones to me. So I picked I'm the one who gripped you tight and raised you from perdition. I just think it's too iconic not to be on the list.
It really, yeah.
And then also like, and what visage are you in now, huh? What holy tax accountant?
Do you want me to add like you're the closest thing I had to a father?
Oh yeah, that's a good, yeah.
I always really,
yeah. Honestly, obviously in this episode we were like hands down cast as the MVP of the episode. Usually if Bobby shows up for an episode, it's the same thing as he's at least if not the MVP of the episode, he's on my consideration list of who I'm gonna give that to. Or if I'm gonna split a point between someone, it's almost always someone else and Bobby because Bobby's here.
That makes sense. I
mean, Bobby's only here to be useful and do important shit. Like Bobby's never here just to be here.
Yeah, he's not a filler character. He gets shit done.
I feel like this is the most filler Bobby's been, to be honest, is like this episode. And he still was like, hey, I know a Pamela.
Yeah. And he still like got the brothers back together, I guess. I don't
But yeah, that's all I have to say about this episode.
Yeah, I think I got the insanity out.
Now that we've been recording for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to be talking about season 4, episode 2. Are you there, God? It's me, Dean Winchester, and our guest is going to be Meredith. Will be here hopefully next week, and our other guest will be Kaya. So that'll be fun.
I've been KJ, and this has been Supernatural Opinions. If you enjoyed our show, the best thing you can do is subscribe on your podcast app of choice and tell a friend. Check out our link tree in the episode description for all of our social media and any other Supernatural-related projects we might be working on. Send us an email. Our address is supernaturalopinionspodcast@gmail.com, or reach out directly at KJ, at @KJ on all platforms. Thank you to Joe Veretta for our theme song, and our logo was created by Faith Ebert of faithanddesigns.ca. The episode was recorded, edited, and produced by me, Ed and KJ. If you want to hear more from me, you can check out my other podcast, Series of Opinions. And last but not least, a huge thank you to all of our guests.